Nick Herbert.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. Commiserations on yesterday, and congratulations to the new Speaker. I apologise for not being able to be present at the beginning of this debate. I had not intended to speak in it, but decided only last night that I would stand down as the Member of Parliament for Arundel and South Downs, a constituency that I have been honoured to represent for nearly 15 years. It was a pleasure to listen to the speech of my right honourable friend, the member for Derbyshire Dales. A very long time ago, I was a young researcher who helped a young candidate who was standing in a by-election in West Derbyshire 33 years ago. In fact, I claim that the 100 votes that my right honourable friend secured to win that seat were won by me. He claims that he would have won handsomely had it not been for my disastrous research. I went on to stand for Berwick-upon-Tweed in Northumberland. Unfortunately, I stood in the year of Armageddon, 1997. My great efforts to stand in that beautiful rural constituency were not helped early on by making an important speech to open a coffee morning, urging everybody to vote Conservative, only to be told that I was in the wrong coffee morning and it was in fact a meeting of the Methodists. There were two village halls in the village, which I really don't think I can have been expected to know, and I learnt my lesson about the importance of knowing your constituency. I was immensely privileged to be chosen at the very last moment to represent Arundel and South Downs for the Conservatives, and I believe someone else will be very lucky indeed shortly to be chosen at the very last moment to represent what I believe is the best constituency in the country, full of the most wonderful people, strong communities, and I will miss it a very great deal. I've fought 4 general elections and my majority has gone up every time to a record level, and I know that it's smart to quit when you're ahead. Madam Deputy Speaker, I made my maiden speech on the issue of rural issues. I spoke last in that debate too. Nobody told me as a young new Member of Parliament that I was able to go to what the Americans call the restroom while I was waiting. I waited for what seemed like hours, absolutely desperate for it, and made the shortest maiden speech in history as a consequence. I then went to see the whips to explain that it was very important for the new Member of Parliament for Arundel and South Downs to go and visit the touring side, then Australia, play the Duke of Norfolk's 11 and the Arundel Castle cricket ground. The whips told me that not only was that entirely possible, but of course I should put in any request at any time for any sporting event that I felt it necessary to be at. I had no idea that they were being sarcastic and proceeded to give them a very long list of all the sporting events I wished to attend that year and never lived it down. I found myself on the front bench very quickly for a brief time. This is a salutary lesson to all of the young people who will get elected at the next election. For a very brief time, I was billed as a rising star before I plummeted into the depths of the Home Office from which I never entirely recovered. I agree with my honourable friend that attending this debate with some marvellous speeches is rather like attending one's own obituary, and since I'm not entirely certain that everyone will be effusive enough, I intend to list some of the things that I have been involved in. My serious point is that after I stand down, I intend to continue work on a number of important areas which I have done work on in this place. LGBT rights, which my friend, the Honourable Member for Liverpool West Derby mentioned, the campaign for equal marriage, setting up the all-party parliamentary group on global LGBT rights, setting up the Global Equality Caucus, run so ably by Alan Wardle and supported by Andrew Slynn. My work on tuberculosis, setting up the all-party parliamentary group for global tuberculosis, fighting the deadliest disease in the world, then the Global TB Caucus, which succeeded in driving TB up the agenda with a high-level meeting at the UN, ably run by Sarah Kurt, with support on the all-party parliamentary group from Janneke Hauser, and set up with brilliant initial work by my friend Matt Oliver. I have recently assumed the chairmanship of the Countryside Alliance, which I intend to devote a lot of time to returning to my roots, because I believe passionately in supporting rural communities, in the freedom to choose, and in ensuring that we protect the rural way of life. And I will be running the think tank which I set up, the Project for Modern Democracy, just as I before set up a think tank, reform, because I believe we need new thinking on Whitehall reform, on planning, and on how you ensure that markets operate fairly in the modern world. I just want to say something briefly about Brexit. I set up the National No campaign against joining the euro. For a long time I was thought of as a Eurosceptic, but I led the Conservatives In campaign to remain in the European Union. But I nevertheless accepted the results of the referendum immediately. And I just want to dispute the idea that the only principled position for Remainers to take is somehow to gainsay the referendum result. I do not believe that is true. Actually, I think it is a principled and honourable position to accept the result of the referendum, because in the end it is about democracy. I have done that, and that is why I support the Prime Minister, support him in seeking successfully a deal, and I do not think that we should demonise the millions of people who did vote for Remain but have accepted the result and do think a deal is possible. Rather, I think we should investigate more closely why it is that people did vote for leave and what it is exactly they wanted, and to have a more mature, sober and sensible debate about those issues. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to thank my brilliant staff, Michelle Taylor, my wonderful constituency assistant, Alex Black, who runs my office, Lindsay White, my wonderful secretary, Chris Cook, my researcher. I'd like to thank members of my Conservative Association, my chairman Angela Litchfield, Sue Holland, Malcolm Gill and Peter Griffiths successively, my constituents, of course, for doing me the great honour of returning me to Arundel and South Downs, but above all, my partner, my closest and best friend, Jason Eads, without whose tireless, unremitting, unquestioning support I would never have been able to do this job in the first place. Thank you to you all for doing me this great honour. I'm very sad to be going, but I know that it's the right time to do so.